Hello there everybody, it's Adam Cleary and welcome to 10 wrestlers who gambled on a new catchphrase. Before I start though, just going to address the elephant with giraffe legs in the room here, and no, I'm sorry, What Culture's resident catchphrase king Adam Wilborn is not included. Why? Well, because he's not a wrestler, he's just Alan Partridge. If that feels like some impenetrable What Culture office patter, then, well, that's a good start. Because a catchphrase should be something that's easy to understand, reflective of character, and in general, an easy shortcut to generate a crowd reaction. Bret Hart's best there is, best there was, best there ever will be was an all-timer because it was strong, clean, and alliterative. Suck It worked because it was just really fun to say, and Edge and Christians for the benefit of those with flash photography was just inspired because it was the year 2000. They were all great and eternal, but most of the time catchphrases grow stale, and when they do, it's up to the person responsible for spouting them to come up with something new and engaging to revitalize fan support. And while there are countless examples of this happening throughout the history of wrestling, some remain bigger rolls of the dice than others. My name is Adam Cleary and these are 10 wrestlers who gambled on a brand new catchphrase. Number 10, Mr. Ass. Mr. Ass's gimmick was that he had a fabulous, well-manicured ass and he loved the asses of other people. Mr. Ass, and God Jesus Christ, can you imagine calling The Rock Mr. Eyebrow, sure loved asses. So it was rather strange then that for a few weeks in the gross Vince Russo WWF era, he unveiled a new catchphrase. 2 in the pink, 1 in the stink, he'd say, as a call and response. Which was weird because, I mean, he was Mr. Ass, so 3 in the stink, surely. He didn't call himself Mr. Puss. Was it successful? It was not successful. Number 9, RYBACK. Ah yes, your pal and mine RYBACK had mixed success in the catchphrase field. As Skip Sheffield, he tried to get yip 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 what it do over, which made him sound as dumb as a box of rocks. But as RYBACK, a Terminator-inspired character that was dumb in the good fun kind of way, RYBACK convinced several thousand people every single night to shout, "Feed me more." It was good and it was over, and he had a real presence about him, which he briefly headlined WWE pay-per-views with. Finish! It got over too, and all was well until they turned him heel after losing to Mark Henry in a frankly nonsensical result. As a heel, RYBACK took to saying, "RYBACK rules," perhaps seeking to impress Vince with alliteration. But sadly, his goose was cooked, and this Billy Madison-inspired bit had largely been forgotten. Was it successful? Well, RYBACK is now a men's rights activist, so no. Number 8, Daniel Bryan. Bryan, Daniel, Danny, Bryan's yes chants were a gamble all of themselves. Not because they weren't good, but because he just up and did it one day on an ask forgiveness later basis. He just didn't care. He wanted to amuse himself under the expectation that the fans would find it entertaining too, and my god they did. Inspired by Diego Sanchez's UFC psych-up routine, Bryan, as this chicken cash-in world heavyweight champion, believed himself to be a goddamn golden god. This got him over as a babyface because it was such a farcical riot, but WWE, unbelievably, didn't see it at first. Thus, Bryan, with the most blunt and hilarious of tweaks, started just saying no when the fans played along. It was all so gloriously dumb, but crucially, that good kind of dumb. I mean, it's literally just a man changing his catchphrase from yes to no. It is so obvious, but it was so well executed. Was it successful? Well, I mean, fans still chant no to this day, so yes, ironically. Number 7, The Miz. Now, this is an opinion of mine which does feel slightly controversial, but I've always thought The Miz is a very good heel precisely because he isn't very good. Don't get me wrong, he's incredibly charismatic and he grafts his absolute bollocks off to follow road agent direction, but watch his attempt to sell for Tucker's Luther's press just a few weeks ago. I mean, the guy's been a professional wrestler for years and years, but he no-sold a routine move, got lost for a moment, and then just left the ring. When Lacey Evans does it, the internet goes mad, but this particular effort from The Miz was probably worse than any lol look at the state of this gif you've seen of her. But Miz is still a very, very good heel, and really is such an insufferable thing to say to somebody. That plus his cheese grated at the gooch cadence and smug bastard facial expression has got it over massively. Whatever happens in the ring, good or bad, he can brush it off with just one word. Was it successful? Yes, incredibly so. Number 6, The Rock. Look at this man. Just look at this man. He is a veritable catchphrase generator. Literally every single time the mainstream or financial media bothers to cover WWE, the word smash smack and or down are mandatory. If you smell what The Rock is cooking began as a sexual innuendo and mutated into a monster of crowd interaction. It doesn't matter what your name is, coined incredibly by Tiger Ali Singh, was a murder weapon. Know your role and shut your mouth was funny and authoritative. Jabroni was so hilarious it became for a time the new word for jobber, and Poontang Pie was also good because it effectively conveyed the idea that The Rock was just cool and had lots of sex. The only exception to all of this was go and get a glass of shut up juice. That was a bit lame because it just sounded like something that somebody who wanted to be The Rock would say rather than The Rock himself. Like, I don't know, Buff Bagwell, for example. Was it successful? Well, you could live to be a million and you will never read a single Vince McMahon tells Bin Salman to go get some shut up juice as he pulls Crown Jewel live feed in a mainstream headline, so I guess not. Number 5, The Rock. Again. Yes, as we have established, The Rock is wonderful, but then again, the Beatles wrote Wild Honey Pie, David Lynch directed Dune, and Simon Miller once bet me NXT wouldn't win Survivor Series under penalty of dressing like a clown. We all make mistakes. And The Rock made a mistake with the whole boots to asses deal because it was both basic and nonsensical. It was perhaps intended as a rallying cry to get fans on his side ahead of his match against John Cena at WrestleMania but it wasn't particularly necessary. It's difficult to even bury scathingly because it's just so weirdly generic. Boots to asses. Was it successful? But yes, actually, in a weird way, because a record number of wrestling fans ordered a pay-per-view just to see John Cena get knocked off his perch. Number 4, Steve Austin. Steve Austin based his stone cold persona on real-life serial killer Richard Iceman Kuklinski and began experimenting, as wrestlers do, with a catchphrase. It wasn't Austin 316 says I just whooped your ass. He sold warehouses full of t-shirts with that one. It wasn't and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so and kids across the world began punctuating their own sentences with that one. Nor was it give me a hell yeah, a monster phrase that routinely broke the Richter scale. His first catchphrase did none of these things because it was as lame as it was contrived. The interviewer would have to say, man, that's cold for the setup, before Austin would retort, nah, that's Stone Cold, because, get it, that's his nickname. Was it successful? No, he realized very quickly it was shit. Number 3, the 1-2-3 Kid. Yeah, let's call a spade here, perhaps the most underrated pro wrestler of all time, this guy, but his attitude era catchphrase was the pits. As a slender, big bumping performer far better at getting his own ass smoked, he wasn't really equipped with the necessary intimidation factor for this one. It was just an overload of very, very forced cool. I smoke weed and I beat people up and I f*** the hottest chicks too, brah. It's like something a 14-year-old reads on a dorm room poster and tries to retort himself. It's also just the 1990s equivalent of that smirk emoji that the most dry-balled amongst you continually send to all the women who wish you'd stop bothering them. Was it successful? I mean, yeah, absolutely, because we all had goatee beards and frosted tips and smoked weed and listened to Korn and wore oversized jeans. It got over because we're all awful. Number 2, Steve Blackman. Everybody required a catchphrase in the Attitude Era. They couldn't print t-shirts fast enough and they couldn't get folk off TV fast enough because so many acts were over under the car crash framework. The catchphrase, though, was as mandatory as blood, tits, and Kane, but Steve Blackman's was awful. Look at him, he just wasn't really a catchphrase guy. He was more of a seems capable of killing you with his bare hands and air quotes boring kind of guy, and it all just didn't really fit. In a bid to get over, Blackman took to saying, it's party time, before pounding some poor prick's dick into the dirt. The punchline, you see, is that it wasn't a party. The bit didn't get over because fans were sort of desensitized to the weapons-heavy action by this point, and also it wasn't very good. Was it successful? Do you know, alright, it actually might be, in retrospect, if Joey Janela does the right thing and books him for spring break this year. Number 1, Steve Austin. Again. Right, here's the thing that most people don't seem to appreciate. Steve Austin, in addition to being a megastar workhorse, is also a surrealist comedian. And way more important than that, he is also the goddamn worst. Because after quite a few amusing bits, I mean, Austin's deadpan was both funny and quite terrifying, the fans not only took to it, but they took it too far. In fact, they somehow contrived to make bad scripted promos even worse by ceaselessly chanting what? What? With a profound obnoxiousness. This insufferable bullshit has ruined a significant proportion of modern WWE experiences, and everybody who has ever engaged in the practice is guaranteed to be an awful person. They talk in the cinema, there are toenails all over their living room floor, and they definitely use that smirk emoji. Was it successful? Yes, it's probably one of the most successful catchphrases in wrestling history, but then again, nuclear bombs are successful. What? So there you have it, those are 10 times wrestlers gambled on a new catchphrase. Let me know what you made of it all in the comments below. Of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. In the meantime, though, thank you so much for watching. What? I've been Adam Cleary from What Culture. What? And I will see you soon. What? Goodbye.